Apparently, we're all still sitting here in the dark indefinitely, and the floor is sticky.
I just wanted to point out this little segment of video on the Rachel Maddow show, in particular relation to what she just said, in reference to sitting here in the dark indefinitely. And obviously we've been looking at the potential for an EMP blackout scenario happening soon, sometime between now and possibly the 14th, 15th of May. Again, we'll see. And then you've obviously got this message here in the back: are we done now? Is this it? The iPad Goat video, the Google Doodle, the message from the Google Doodle, it can be viewed in 360, which is a complete circle. It's completion. That is the message. It's complete. Whatever they were planning or are planning, it's complete. So now what happens? Are we done now? Is this it? Sitting in the dark indefinitely? All those kind of references are suggesting that the time really has been taken, just like in the Google Doodle. There's no more time. Time is done. That's it. And if that's the case, then I'm going to say sometime between now, today is the 4th of May, the Google Doodle is still up. So they're running it for more than one day, which is unusual. They usually run it for one day. So they're running it for longer. So I'm going to say from the 5th of May onwards up until the 14th/15th of May, we need to be really on our game and being very careful in going to, very public places, being alert to the news of any volcanoes erupting, major earthquakes happening, any reports of any tsunamis, all that kind of stuff. Hi guys, quick update. So I'm just going to add this onto the video I made earlier. Hawaii volcano eruption is imminent. So after all the events that have been happening around the Kilauea volcano, with the lava rising up and then spilling over into the crater, followed by the collapsing of the lower crater floor, movement of magma detected, 4.2 magnitude earthquake, which has been later upgraded to a magnitude 5. The Hawaiian residents of the island are now being told to prepare to evacuate. And today's the 4th of May, and obviously we've got the reference to the V on Obama's forehead in the sweat bead, which could be translated as the Roman numeral for 5, which may see the eruption of the volcano tomorrow. But the eruption is imminent, at least according to the signs that we're seeing so far. Hawaiians are being told to prepare to evacuate amid growing fears the volcano, which forms the state's largest island, could be about to erupt. Authorities have closed 16,000 acres of national park and begun identifying shelters after hundreds of earthquakes heightened concerns that lava and molten rocks could spew out of Kilauea volcano. Geologists warned a continued increase in seismic activity following the collapse of a crater floor on Monday suggested eruption could be imminent. The collapse of, I can't say it again, an open vent below Kilauea's summit crater and lava lake triggered a series of earthquakes and pushed magma into new underground chambers. The lava has moved down the east slope of the volcano and into the Big Island's Puna district. The U.S. Geological Survey's Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said the underground magma may have already gone beneath Highway 130, a main road which leads to a popular viewing point, and was approaching homes. Should an eruption occur, residents along the East Rift Zone may have little warning, and that could be possibly why Obama looks downcast in the iPad Goat video. If we're looking at it in that way, maybe something happens in terms of the eruption on the volcano. Maybe there's casualties. Maybe that's why he looks like that. And then after that, other events transpire. As you know, we've talked about it over and over again. But in relation to that, I wanted to read this report from because it really summarizes why I think that nothing can really happen with Iran, at least until after May 10th, which is, May 11th, which is the last day of the Great Return March. That's been going on for 6 weeks since March the 30th. So next week on the 11th of May is the last day of that. And then following the very next day is the deadline for the Iran nuclear deal. And then 2 days after that is the Israeli Independence Day. So Israel has been braced for Tehran revenge and on high war alert for 3 weeks after opening 2 war fronts against the Islamic Republic. One in Syria by means of air and and missile strikes on Iran's Syrian infrastructure on February the 10th, April the 9th, and April the 29th, and 2, an intelligence coup in the heart of Tehran where Israel's agents raided the secret hideout of Iran's atomic archive and walked off with its contents. This breach of a top secret site wrought as much damage to Iran's security as the theft of the documentary trove. The next stage of the Israeli-Iranian conflict may therefore reach for the first time outside the Syrian-Lebanese arena to Iran proper and open the door for a direct reprisal from Israel's assaults from Iranian soil. Sorry guys, I've literally been up for 24 hours. Debka's files, military sources note that Tehran has a choice of options aside from a direct ballistic missile attack on Israel, such as, for instance, an assault on an Israeli target in the Red Sea region. Tehran and Hezbollah may have been holding back on their revenge attacks until after certain key dates. Lebanon's elections on May 6th, which is in 2 days' time. Iraq's polls on May 12th, which is the same day as the decision that is going to be made by the US as to whether to remain in the Iran nuclear deal or not, or whether to restore sanctions on Iran. This will signal America's exit from the 2015 nuclear accord, but those dates are fast approaching and their deterrent effect on Tehran fading in relevance. So what happens next? According to this report, Washington sources report the impression that Trump will decide not to decide on May 12th, and so leave the status of the nuclear accord hanging fire. Tehran will then have 2 swords hanging over its head, the threat of a US economic and financial campaign and continued Israeli warfare. This uncertainty may prove too much for the Islamic regime in Tehran to bear, especially when plagued with a falling currency, a deep economic crisis, and a restrictive, disaffected population. Israel, too, will find a long period of uncertainty had to live with. The IDF has completed its preparations for war as sometime. The IDF has completed its preparations for war at some time, barring only the full mobilization of the reserves, a step only taken when Israel is at war. This uneasy situation was summed up by 3 US officials talking to NBC TV on Monday, April the 30th. The morning after Israel's reported airstrike on 2 Iranian bases outside Hama and Aleppo, which killed 24 Iranian troops and blew up a large weapons depot. And we heard about that report. The Americans commented on the list of the potentials for most likely live hostility around the world. The battle between Israel and Iran in Syria is at the top of the list right now. This means that a war confrontation between Israel and Iran could flare up at any moment, although no one knows when, where, or in what form. Of major relevance is Moscow's continuous silence during and after Israel's missile strike on April 29th. This may be interpreted as the Kremlin prudently biding its time as the situation evolves. For now, Russian military personnel are not in harm's way, and Moscow may see profit in the steady degrading by Israel of Iran's military strength in Syria. Now, obviously, this report doesn't seem to take note of the fact that, despite the fact that Moscow has remained relatively silent in terms of what they've said, their movements have basically spoken up for them. Their actions are speaking louder than their words. Bringing in the military equipment into Syria, bringing the bombers and everything to Iran, backing, Hezbollah force to try and take control of the Euphrates River during the strikes on Syria by the UK, France, and United States. So Russia's not really remaining quiet. They're just speaking through their actions, whereas our leaders appear to do a lot of talking to the media trying to convince us of things that we know just aren't true. So that's all I wanted to bring to you guys today. The kind of reference in the Rachel Maddow show to the whole, you know, being in the darkness indefinitely, and then that coming at the same time as I've just, you know, we've just started looking at this Google Doodle in this 360 video, which basically says completion. It's a complete circle. We've come full circle. It's completed, whatever. You know, that kind of suggests that there's no more time, as again in the doodle it indicates. And we've got the volcano connected to Obama because it's going off in Hawaii, possibly erupting, maybe causing some collateral damage if these civilians don't get out of the way fast enough or are not paying attention to what's going on. And then you've got, you know, the potential, the ever increasing potential for Iran's retaliation on Israel for all the deaths of its soldiers that it's killed over the last couple of weeks. And as this report says, there's a couple of key dates that Iran will be waiting for. May 6th, what was it, elections or something, some polls. Let's see here. Yeah, so May 6th, Lebanon's elections, Iraq's polls on May 12th, and the Iran nuclear deal on May 12th as well. And then obviously after those dates, I think something may come in terms of retaliation from Iran. So you guys, that's it. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.